Tonight we're going to be showcasing the great and all-powerful Genie. This is a Warlock subclass that was created by Jeremy, where your patron is, well, as it says there, a Genie. So this is a Genie patron Warlock. It's a much different take than the Wizards of the Coast Unearthed Arcana one that came out recently. In my opinion, it's a much better take, which I think, Jeremy, you are of like mind, which is why you decided to do this in the first place. Was because you were kind of dissatisfied maybe with the Unearthed Arcana one?
Yeah, I think my biggest concern with the Unearthed Arcana option for the Genie patron, the Noble Genie is what they called it, is it really focused on the elemental aspects of Genies, right? The idea that a Genie is from the elemental plane of air, and they're kind of an air elemental thing, and a Freedy is from the elemental plane of fire, and they're a fire elemental thing. And the Unearthed Arcana really focused on those aspects of the subclass. I really wanted to focus on the more whimsical, fantastical aspects of Genies that I think everyone kind of, associates more with Genies, right? I am the Genie of the lamp, or Genie from Aladdin, or that kind of a vibe, which is much more whimsical, much more playful, and that's what I really wanted to focus on.
Yeah, it's definitely what my...
and the treasures.
Yes, the treasures
very important to me. Genies with their treasure.
It's a much more idyllic look at what a Genie is, a lot more grounded in mythology and human lore than the more D&D centric Genie. So I really love this version, but let's talk a little bit about some of the features and stuff that it gives you.
Yeah, and for me, I think it hits the flavor way better than the other one. But
let's be frank, this lets you be Aladdin if you wish to do so.
Well, yeah, let's talk a little bit about this. So, as you can see, it's a beautifully prepared and presented part piece, as all of our content is when we're finished with it. And like Pete was mentioning earlier, it's going to be on the DM's Guild pretty shortly. So right off the bat, what does this do, right? As a Warlock patron, we decided to use the Warlock chassis for this subclass. You would gain abilities at first level, so right off the bat with your character, and then again at 6th, 10th, and 14th levels. So a lot of places where you can gain features, and a lot of ways that we can put a lot of oomph into this. Right from the get-go, right, there's always a little bit of, oh my goodness, V-Bunny, thank you so much for gifting a tier 1 sub. Thank you so much. Congratulations, Lord Co here, for being the beneficiary of said sub.
Very generous, V-Bunny, thank you.
But yeah, right off the bat, right, we have this little bit of text here talking about what this subclass is and what it represents. And we wanted to leave it very open. In the Unearthed Arcana, they talked a lot about how, right, the Genie has claimed you as part of their whatever. And I think that was a cool concept, but I also think the classic, oh, right, I've gotten the best of this Genie and they owe me something, right? Like Aladdin has rubbed the lamp, or, I mean, that's so classical for Genie that I think it had to be here. And so we kind of left it open for that, right? Perhaps you have done a service for this Genie, freeing them from some capture, or perhaps the Genie has found interest in you, right? And value in your existence and your power.
But it's definitely a flavor text that allows you to choose what your relationship with your Genie is, which is something that's actually expanded on in this extra gray text on the side here, which Jerry put in, which I thought was so helpful when I was reading this, because the Genie is such a unique patron, as it will mention in that the Genie is something that you could probably find, unlike something abstract like the old one. You know, if your patron is, say, Cthulhu or something just ancient and beyond reckoning, that's a patron that you're probably never going to walk up to and talk to. But a Genie that has a presence, physical presence in the world, it's somewhere, and you could meet with them.
Well, and even beyond that, right? Like, even if you look at some of the more tangible other patrons, like for example, the Fiend, right? Like, Asmodeus is like probably challenge rating, what, 30+ monster if he were to be statted up, right? Fierna, probably one of the weakest of the archdevils, is challenge rating 22. If you're ever going to be interacting with them, they're either going to be way more powerful than you, or like an end game level creature. With a Genie, Genies are challenge rating, what, like 11 maybe?
Yeah, most of the standard ones in the stat block are around that challenge rating.
These are monsters that typically you could interact with or battle or defeat somewhere in a mid to, depending on how far your campaign goes, mid-level of your campaign. You have the capabilities of just teleporting to their realms, the elemental planes. And so we really wanted in this sidebar, right, to talk about the tangibility and give players some idea for, hey, talk to your DM about these specific aspects. And those are really tangibility and the limits, right? Tangibility is how accessible is your genie, right? Can you just teleport to their place? Can you use a sending spell to message your genie? And this talks about, the pros and cons of that and how to think about it, and tells you to think about it with your dungeon master. And the same goes for limits, right? Can you request your genie, please, genie, help me? And it gives you some reasons as to, well, why wouldn't the genie just help you sometimes? And that kind of thought, because it's like people were saying, very important, because your genie is like a tangible thing in the world.
Indeed. And beyond just the fact that that's kind of a necessary element in order to, discuss the idea of having a genie as a patron, that's also opens up a lot of really interesting storytelling opportunities, I think, of having a patron that is more accessible than the average one. I could picture a player working out with the GM, like, you're gonna have to like beat up your genie and kind of overtake them if you want to keep advancing through this class, because you're hitting the outside edge of their power. Like, there's definitely
that could be fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting ways you could take that, or the more traditional, he's an incredibly powerful genie, and he's just on the level of a demigod like an Asmodeus. There's so many directions you could go, but all of them are cool, and this gives you that kind of extra option there.
Absolutely. And we put this here just because we think it's so important that, because these are like the tangibility and the limits of them are so important to think about. No one wants to be like 3/4 through it, like you're most of the way through a game, you as a character go like, oh cool, when I get plane shift, I get to go see my genie. And then it's like, all right, well, you level up, you're level 11 now. It's like, cool, I cast plane shift and go see my genie. And the DM's like, huh? Dude,
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
He's not there.
Yeah, right. Like, very important to talk about these kind of things beforehand. Otherwise, you can really throw stuff off kilter in a bad way.
But let's get into the meat of what this does. Yeah, I think we're on the same page there, Jeremy.
Yeah, let's talk about the features here, Pete. You want to kick us off?
Yeah, well, we have the expanded spell list here, but this expanded spell list plays heavily into the first level features. Do you mind if I just talk right about Genie's Vessel here?
Yeah, absolutely.
Genie's Vessel is the core feature that you get. You get it at first level, and it's a feature, without reading the kind of nitty gritty here, that allows you to once per day once per day per spell, ask your genie to cast one of the spells from your expanded spell list for you. And it, unlike a lot of other Warlock features, which is going to be probably a normal thing here, this Genie definitely breaks the mold in a lot of places. It's probably one of the, or at least thus far, the most unique design that we have done here on Fantasy Labs, or that I've maybe seen. But it works while working at the same time, without completely breaking down. But this is an interesting feature that scales with your expanded spell list. So every spell on this list, you get to cast it once for free every day. And
well, assuming you have a spell of a level that can cast it. So you can't cast 5th level spells until your spell level is 5 on your Pact Magic table.
Correct. And these spells don't require material components. So if the spell would require material components, which is going to be a common theme with all of these spells, you get to ignore that particular aspect. But Jeremy, you want to walk through the spells now?
Yeah, and so the idea, like you were saying, right, is you're using your vessel, which is some kind of small, tiny magical item like a lamp per se, but maybe you want it to be something else, and asking your genie to cast these spells for you. So at first level, you get Chromatic Orb and Identify. Identify is going to fall, or it's starting to start off a theme for this genie, which is magical items and treasure. And we're going to come down with those later, and it's going to be very interesting. And Chromatic Orb is just a cool ability. It kind of harkens back a little bit to that elemental nature of genies, right? They are elemental creatures, so you have a spell that can cast elemental damage. Really straightforward, really simple. Second level, you get Arcane Lock. You got to hide those treasures, and Continual Flame. And Continual Flame's a weird one. It's a spell where you can create like a torch that will burn forever, for example. Magically burn forever. Burn underwater. all that good stuff. And the reason I wanted that spell on there is because that just feels such like Cave of Wonders, right? The magical torch is burning forever. It feels like almost like a little magic item. And I like that, a little wondrous creation.
That is very cool. At third level, there's Sending and Tiny Servant. Sending, you can just send messages over incredible distances. Tiny Servant, you make a little guy. It seems like the kind of thing a genie would do is animate their cup to have little mechanical legs and then pour them a drink out of itself. I don't know what you would do with that. That's up to you, but it's very genie to me.
Very fantastical, which is what we're going for. At fourth level, Liamon's Secret Chest. Which is a really cool spell. Normally you need 1,000 gold piece, 6-inch diameter or 6-inch long chest, like a miniature chest that you can open up an extra dimensional hidey hole with. With this, because you can cast it without using material components, you can just open up an ethereal magical chest to hide your stuff in one of the outer planes. Very cool.
Yeah, agreed.
And Mordenkainen's Private Sanctum, I mean, that's just like, it's a very interesting spell. It's got a lot of different features, but the core theme of it is don't bother me, right? I want my alone time now. I'm the great and all-powerful genie.
And then at fifth level, they get Bigby's Hand and Teleportation Circle. Bigby's Hand was such an obvious one. I picture it as the literal hand of your genie, like emerging from the lamp and like smacking people around. But you could probably interpret that however you so decided. But that has so much flavor to me personally. Teleportation Circle, your genie can transport you magically to other places across great distances. It's something that, again, to harken back to Aladdin, you see in the first scene, Aladdin, just get me out of this cave that I'm in. It felt very right. And it has that same old knowledge and treasure. Like I imagine the runes of the Teleportation Circle being part of the treasured gift that your genie's giving you, the ones that you learn when you take it.
Absolutely. So that's what we get for the expended spell list. And again, I think everything except for Bigby's Hand, Sending, Chromatic Orb, and Tiny Servant, everything else there has a component cost. So you really get the benefit of your genie's vessel getting to cast those other ones for free. And they're also...
I was going to say, yeah, with the exception of Bigby's Hand and Chromatic Orb, they are all very highly utility spells. So even though you're getting... It may look a little ridiculous. Wow, you get 10 free spell casts per day. They're all spells that are very niche and add more of a flavor and an interesting way to interact with the world, rather than direct mechanical buffs and ability to... for example, there's not spells here that are going to give you any advantage on skill checks. It's mostly just fun tools that you get to play around with, and maybe sometime will be useful.
Absolutely. It's just no one wants to, especially as a warlock, identify as one of your few spell slots. Well, now when you need it, you have it. So, Data, stop it. My cat's being bad. Apologies. But anyway, that's the level 1 feature. It's very cool, and it scales throughout your entire, well, up through level 11, basically.
Do you want to start off on the level 6 feature here, Jeremy?
Yeah, level 6 feature is called Larger Than Life. It's a very fun little feature. Basically, as a bonus action, you can use your vessel to kind of form this illusion around yourself. And that illusion is basically the effects of the Disguise Self spell. So you can use that to change your appearance, your height by a certain degree. It never stands up to physical alterations, but it's very cool. The one caveat on this feature is that your true form cannot be discerned by non-magical means, which is a really cool way of saying, you know, even if they detect that you're an illusion, they still can't see through the illusion, which is just
who you are.
A fun little note. And one of the also effects that it gives is it gives you the ability to basically have half cover from your illusion against the first attack against you each round, right? It's almost the kind of distortion or blur effect of just having this illusion around you.
There's a Displacer Beast vibe to it almost.
Yeah, so it has a little bit of combat prowess and a little bit of outside, or a lot of cool outside utility. But the big thing is, you know, it's got that panache, that flair, that I can be whoever I want to be. I am the all-powerful genie kind of vibe.
Indeed. Yeah, I think you've said it. That's Larger Than Life. Great name, by the way. I don't think I've ever told you that I like that name a lot, but that's a great name.
I liked it too. It's one of my reasons. One of the things that sold me on the ability in the first place. Let's talk about this. amazing, amazing. This is my favorite one personally.
Do you want to do this one?
The other one, yeah, and then you can talk about our.
Yeah, that's my favorite one. So take Wondrous Gifts, Jeremy.
Yeah, Wondrous Gifts. This is one of the features that for me is the most appealing about the subclass, and it's the idea that once you get to 10th level, you can almost have a divine intervention like feature if you're familiar with the cleric, right? Where you can ask the genie, great and all-powerful genie, I need one of your magical items to help me. And if it's an attunement item, if your genie grants your request, you automatically can attune to the item. And it's just a very cool way to get a couple of fun magical items that are super whimsical and super appropriate
for a lot of the mythos of the genie.
Absolutely. And like the spell Divine Intervention, or the feature Divine Intervention, if it works, you can't use it again for 7 days. And if it doesn't work, well, you can use it after the next long rest. And the Wondrous Gifts that you can choose from, the way it works is you pick a Wondrous Gift that you're asking for, and then you roll a D100. And if your roll is the number of that gift or higher, you get the gift. If your number is lower, you don't get it. And you have to try another day. So the gifts are the Decanter of Endless Water. It's such a whimsical, fantastical item, a definite treasure from a genie's hoard. The Ring of Water Walking, self-explanatory, so fantastical. The Ever-Smoking Bottle.
Same category as the Decanter, also very cool.
Absolutely. Pete, you want to take the next couple?
Yeah, why not? Staff of the Python. You have a big stick that turns into a giant snake. I love it. A lot of these definitely give me those extreme.
I mean, that's Jafar right there.
Yeah, it's Jafar. On the subject of things in Aladdin, Figure of Wondrous Power, Marble Elephant. You get an elephant that you can ride around on. Majestic, grandiose. It's right on the money. Dancing Sword. This one's not a reference, but it's so right. I can just picture. I just picture the sword fighting for you, and it feels so right for the. Because when I picture a dancing sword, I always picture a scimitar, which is what most genies use too.
Absolutely.
Want to take the last chunk?
Yeah, so there's the Ring of Shooting Stars, another very fantastical, whimsical, magical item. The Carpet of Flying, obviously. A crystal ball, being able to see things that are not there. It's almost like being able to get the scrying spell if you roll high enough. A bowl of commanding water elementals, which I really love that item. And I think, like, if your genie is like an Afridi, right, your DM might say, well, that's actually a brazier of commanding fire elementals or something.
Yes.
But that's just an old school magic item that's very fantastical to me. A Rod of Security. This is an item that's
great.
Very interesting one. It's a very underutilized and very unheard of magic item in the Dungeon Master's Guide, but basically it lets you take up to, I think it's 100 people into an extra dimensional sanctum of your choosing. So it could be a tropical paradise island, right? It could be it could be anything if you're choosing. It could be a castle, it could be anything. And you can stay there for a certain number of days based on the number of people in there. It's very cool. It's a very fun item. I've used it once in a game and it was a blast. And of course, Pete, the Ring of Genie Summoning, which allows you to summon a genie from your patron's retinue to do your bidding, which is just very cool to me.
Absolutely, it is. The Ring of Genie Summoning is such a cool capstone for this. But the whole thing, there's that, like, you know what I was just thinking would be fun, Jeremy? I'm picturing a party of a cleric and this warlock, and the cleric Divine Interventions. Hey, God, can you ask his patron genie to let him get the Ring of Genie Summoning?
It's very good.
Similar mechanics. But that is the feature. You can get these really incredible magical treasures. Sometimes you don't, but sometimes if you roll a natural 20, you just might have a genie that is ready to walk around and roam the world with you for a week, which is quite a boon.
Now, Pete, there's something that this subclass hasn't gotten to date, and I think it's the most important, like, it is the thing that defines genies, and that is wishes. What do they get at 14th level?
Yes, that's an excellent question, Jeremy. They get a feature called 3 Wishes. This feature is
the most unique feature in the game.
Yes, definitely breaks all of the conventions of 5e. What it does is at 14th level, it allows you to cast the wish spell exactly 3 times. And it specifies that the Genie will go out of no way to try and subvert these wishes as it grants them, and it also specifies that even though you're 14th level, you usually wouldn't get wish until 17th level. You can cast the wish spell here. The great caveat on that is once you have used your 3 wishes, they are done. This is a consumable class feature.
Yeah.
Which is very different, but also it has an incredible amount of impact and is campaign defining in the manner in which the player will choose to use it. As this is essentially 3 wishes that are whatever you want. There's some caveats here.
With a few caveats, yeah, a couple limits, but
which the limits follow some of the conventions of genies that you've seen in Mythos, which are that they won't cause people to fall in love or out of love. They won't use their wishes to kill. They don't like bringing back the dead if they can avoid it.
But they will if they have to.
Yeah, if they have to. And of course, no wishing for more wishes.
Yep. But yeah, I mean, very cool, very straightforward. It's you get 3 damn wishes. It's everything that everyone wants out of genies. And I mean, from a rubric perspective, there's 100% space for this. It's oozing with flavor. There are maybe some playability issues, which is why we have these sidebars in there to discuss, the limits and the tangibilities and these important things to think about to avoid playability issues.
This is a feature that you want to talk about with your Dungeon Master before it comes up, or that the Dungeon Master should look at and go, hey, I want to talk to you about your 3 wishes. But it also, I think, has so much potential to be an incredible story for the player that uses it.
Yeah.
And as such, even though maybe it's a little bit off on the playability and I don't know, this unrateable in terms of the balance, I think the flavor of it and the storytelling potential is so strong that it justifies its use here.
Absolutely.
And also, it's why that they get Big B's hand on a 1st level feature is because eventually they're going to lose their 14th level feature.
Exactly. These lower level features that scale with your class, you get at 1st level and start to scale up, that's really there as a way of saying, hey, here's some extra oomph so that you can afford to hold on to your 3 wishes until you need them.
Yep.
And that's really cool. I mean, this is, for me, I love this. Very, very excited. I'd love to play this or see this played in a game.
Me
It's
too.
just awesome.
I would absolutely play this Warlock. Go out of my way to play a Warlock so I can do this. But this is the great and all-powerful Genie Warlock patron. Jeremy, you absolutely crushed it on this one. If you like it and you think you would want to run it in a game or use it, it's going to be up on the DM's Guild. Available for purchase, I believe, $1.
Yeah. It's going to be $1 on the DM's Guild. And of course, as always, we have our full-size preview on the DM's Guild where you can read the whole thing and know the whole thing and even play test the whole thing in your own games before you buy it. And then, when you decide, you know what, I don't want this ugly sample watermark on it anymore, you go ahead and you pay $1 and it's yours. Yep. So thank you so much for your support in advance for anyone who decides to pick this bad boy up.
Yeah, we really appreciate the support. For sure.
Is it a normal buck or a Bartholomew buck? Oh my God, Apex! Maybe we could do that. We could make a way so people can exchange their Bartholomew bucks for official copies. That might be fun.
That could be fun if people want that. Tell us. But for now, it's a normal buck. But that is
that's it.
That's it.
Thank you so much, and we hope you like it. Let us know. By the way, these links probably aren't live yet, hopefully, but we will have feedback links here at the end of the document that you can use to, go ahead and give us your feedback on this once you've play tested it in some of your games. Playtest feedback is invaluable, and that's how we're going to make this content better and better and more exciting and more of what you want it to be in the future as we continue to create content here. So thank you again. We love you guys.
Thanks so much.